Ah, the Aztecs. You love them. Their surrounding neighbors hated them. But even though they were hated by everyone, their civilization was one of the most important economic centers in all of Mesoamerica. In most civilizations, we see a form of area where people of different lands and with different backgrounds come together to sell and buy resources, and the Aztecs were no exception to these activities. Almost every Aztec settlement had a marketplace where merchants would sell items that ranged from basic products to survive to luxury items for the nobles. Some of these markets were so huge that thousands of people could be seen roaming their squares. One of the biggest marketplaces of the Aztec civilization was the city-state of Tlatelolco, where Cortés himself stated that more than 60,000 people were seen walking around the colorful market. Tlatelolco was as big as Salamanca, which would be around 14.9 square miles, or about 9,536 acres. There were some fine buildings in some of the marketplace squares where issues involved in the market would be resolved by the Posteca, which were merchants and served as market judges. It was even monitored by market officials who would go around checking and making sure everything being sold was good and real, because you never want to get scammed in one of these places. And how they scam was rather interesting. See, they removed the insides of a cocoa bean and filled it up with dirt to simulate a real bean. This way, it would be rather difficult to spot the difference between a real and fake bean if they were inside a bag of regular cocoa beans or if seen from far away. And by the time you noticed you were scammed, you'd probably be rather pissed off. The markets in the Valley of Mexico were very accessible because people would use canoes to travel across the lake to deliver or enter the market without much issue. The way these Aztec markets worked was being divided into 4 levels. Tier 1, Tlatelolco. Tier 2, Texcoco and Xochimilco, along with a few other city-states. Tier 3, Otumba, Coyoacán, and Acolman. Tier 4, smaller towns and villages. They were placed into these tiers based off the number of attendees, the quantity and variety of goods, and the frequency for when they were open. The Aztec week was 5 days long, so the top 2 tiers were open daily, the third tier was open weekly, and the final tier open every so often. It's like if your supermarket said, it's a Saturday. Yeah, screw it, we're not going to open. Some of these markets were also specialized markets. These specialized markets focused on selling specific items from common tools and clothing to luxury items such as animals, feathers, which were important to the Aztecs, or even slaves, like the markets of Azcapotzalco and Itzcoan, who were known for this. The Aztecs mainly used cocoa and cotton capes, known as quachli, as forms of payment, and it depended on what it was being used for. Cocoa beans would be accepted for smaller purchases, like food and clothing, while quachli would be made for bigger purchases, such as slaves or feathers. It is said that 20 quachli was enough for an average family to survive off for an entire year. One of the final aspects about the Aztec marketplaces were their social roles. Along with merchants traveling far and wide to spread their influence, people would also come to catch up with other people and talk about gossip. Even people from different nations would come to these markets and sell their products, such as the Purepecha, who, even though weren't politically on good terms with the Aztecs, would still sell and purchase items from them. The reason I wanted to talk about the marketplaces was because I think it's important to understand how far back people have been coming together to a specified area in order to sell and purchase items they or somebody else may want. Markets have changed so much over the centuries that we no longer have to go anywhere to purchase the supplies we need, and sadly, we can no longer just survive off of making cotton canes, which would be pretty cool, honestly. I hope you enjoyed the first video of a new series I will be working on, focusing on the Aztecs. After then, I'll probably be making more videos on Native American culture, so if you have any suggestions on who I should focus on next, please feel free to comment down below. Anyway, that's all for today. See you in the next video. Bye.